everyone, Rascal here. Welcome to the Rascal Reviews. And this time going on my favorites list, I'm covering one of my favorite anime shows of all time, and actually the first superhero show I ever watched as a kid. That would be the original Static Shock animated series. The series came out in the very early 2000s and was created by the ever legendary Dwayne McDuffie. It's considered one of his greatest pieces of work that he's ever written aside from Ben 10. And for here, this one was a little trickier to do because I had not seen Static Shock in years. I had to give it quite a bit of a rewatch. And had I rewatched the first season, it took me a while to get to the other seasons. But it looks like I wasn't alone in terms of finding other people that love this show as much as I do. It is seriously one of the best series ever made. For superheroes, for animation, anything by Dwayne McDuffie, it's just a perfect show. It's a really, really perfect show. And if you've seen Ben 10 or Justice League or Batman the Animated Series or just about any of the Bruce Timm DC shows, then you're going to really enjoy this as well. It's seriously one of the best things ever made by this guy. And may he rest in peace because he truly had a gift of talent and story, creativity, and teaching morals and lessons. Now, like I said, Static Shock was my first superhero cartoon. At that time, I really wasn't into superheroes. I kind of just watched what I knew I liked, and that was it. That would be SpongeBob and Code Lyoko and Father's Imaginary Friends. It was more of just the regular, basic shows that were still fun, but they weren't a particular genre. They were just things that I like. Static was the first superhero show I watched. Justice League was coming out at that time too, but I had no interest in it at that point. I remember only a couple scenes when I was really, really little, and that's about it. But then one day Static Shock came on one of those Saturday morning cartoon blocks with what used to be WB Kids or Cartoon Network. And from then on, I loved the show. I loved the character. He ended up being my very first superhero to love. And he was actually before Spider-Man. Not too long after Static, it was Spider-Man, probably maybe a year later at the most, when I saw the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie in the theaters with my mom and some of her friends. Yeah, those would be my first superheroes. The first would be Static on TV, and then Spider-Man in the theaters. And wow, now thinking about it, it has been a heck of a long time since I've seen either one of those properties. And it's one of those little things they say you feel old thinking about it, but it's a good memory. So for Static Shock, it's about a boy named Virgil Hawkins who ends up accidentally gaining powers from a chemical. When they were about to have a gang war within the show, SAG did not want to get involved in it because of what the guns did to his mother. And here, his mother is gone. And the reason why is because during the turf war, the mob accidentally got in the crossfire and she was taken out. So from then on, Virgil hated guns. And he thought at that time, by being in one of the gangs, he could toughen up, get protection, show he doesn't be messed with. But then he realized where it all could lead, and his mother wouldn't want that. He turned his back from wanting to be in the gang and tried to leave. And at that point, they had a chemical accident near them. And at the time this was made, just about any name went that sounded cool to them. The people that got powers at that time due to the chemical reaction weren't called metas. They were called bang babies. I know how that sounds, but this was like early 2000s. You could get away with this stuff. But yes, he became one of those and acquired electrical powers. And from that point on, SAG wanted to use his powers to help people and help his city and his community. And from that point, it's like watching Saturday morning cartoon where it's a different villain every week. Some ended up becoming longer standing antagonists. Some were just one and done villains. Some reoccurred once in a while. And then there were some pretty deep episodes where the people really weren't villains, but they were just trying to get help or trying to stay away from people so they didn't harm anybody. And those were some of the best episodes having to do with those types of villains or storylines. And I think Static stayed on for about 4 seasons and then was abruptly canceled. If it had stayed on, it probably would have had even more seasons. And this was also part of Dwayne McDuffie's old company, Milestone Comics, where he made his own independent company, would feature predominantly brown and black superheroes and characters. And they could work on the things themselves and not have to answer to higher ups, and they could publish their own stories and comics and everything. And Static was one of his bigger successes when it came to TV shows. A while later, they had Teen Titans and they had Ben 10, but Static was the first. And for me, Static is a fantastic show. It's just that some people have decided to make Static the only singular thing Dwayne McDuffie made that matters to people, which I don't think is fair. I mean, it's one of his best. That's one of the starting points. Don't get me wrong, it's important. But I personally don't think we should just push aside Teen Titans and Ben 10 because of how the characters look, and it's not Static and it's not standing for something. And even Dwayne McDuffie himself said that he is not an activist. He just wants to create these stories featuring these people and show that you don't have to look like the person on screen to be inspired. There are plenty of paler superheroes that brown kids identify with, so the same could happen the other way around, and that's what he wanted to do. And some people thought he didn't say that, even though there's footage of him, but they still respected his wishes at the time, so he got his stories out. Now, the episodes themselves, some of them were really, really good. Some of them could get a little silly towards the end of the series, and some were pretty deep and very mature for a kid's show. And that was usually Dwayne McDuffie's style, where he had these really deep, provocative storylines that was supposed to teach kids right from wrong. This is how bad someone can get without looking gory or violent or vulgar. This is what to do and what not to do, and what you have to think of when you make your decisions. And for Static Shock, it was kind of done in a way similar with the original Ben 10 show, where both shows seem to ask the question, what does it mean to be a hero? Yeah, it sounds like My Hero Academia, but this is long before then. It always asks that question, what does it mean to be a hero? How do you see yourself as a hero? What do you think a hero does? All the basic things, they go and save people, fight crime, save the day. But he really goes into detail with Static and Ben 10, like, do you want to save people because it's the right thing to do? It's because you want to do right? It's because you want to save others? Or do you do it because you love the thrill of being a hero and the action of it rather than protecting people? And for a while, it was a question that almost went unanswered because, yeah, of course, both Static and Ben really loved saving people and having the attention and everything. But when it came down to it, they both had to ask themselves, do you like being a hero because of fame or because you really want to save others? And for Static, he did want to save others because of what happened with his mother, what almost happened to him, and other criminals having these powers and hurting others and stealing. He wanted to protect his city and do right by these powers, which is why he did everything he could to train and build up his strength and become the protector of Dakota City. And it's a really, really great show. I kind of wish they had... Well, actually, they do have the whole series on DVD, but they are a bit pricey to get. The first one is probably the easiest to get, the first season. But as it gets further along in the show, it does get a little harder unless you're streaming on HBO Max, which I have it available for. But it gets a little harder to get because the prices can get a bit steep. So your options are either to buy one season at a time and look for a good deal on them on Amazon, or if you have HBO Max, stream it on there and watch the show on there with your service. But for Static, I think before Spider-Man, Static really taught me a lot on what heroes do and what made me really love superheroes as a whole since I was a kid. It was before Spider-Man, it was before Sky High, before Ben 10. This was the show that started my adoration for superheroes and the genre and what they stand for and how powerful a hero can be to others, both visually and physically. And it's almost like how Stan Lee quote is, one person can make a difference. And for me, Static Shock made a huge difference in my life, watching it and learning about heroes and becoming really engrossed in superhero culture. And now is the number one thing on my channel. Almost everything I do or make involves superheroes to some degree, or people that do classify under the category of superhero. So, that's it for my review. What do you guys think of Static Shock? Let me know in the comments below. Do you love it too? Do you not love it as much now upon me watching and you think it was just nostalgia? Or do you actually not like the show at all? And you could tell me why do you not care for it. Let me know in the comments below, as well as if you have any favorite characters or anything about the series, anything about Dwayne McDuffie or trivia. Place it all in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Later!